Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. My name's Connor from 905 Review. You guys are checking out our series Give This a Spin, where I recommend you some of my favorite albums. Today we're checking out the self-titled debut release by Viet Cong. Viet Cong are a post-punk band out of Calgary, Alberta, and they were birthed from the remains of the indie group Women. Women released a self-titled debut in 2008, as well as the much more popular Public Strain 2 years later, and it was during the tour in promotion of this album that the band came to a breaking point, abruptly calling things off during a show in Victoria, BC, when they were all just so incredibly stressed out and they just couldn't do it anymore. Guitarist Christopher Reimer would pass away suddenly and unexpectedly in 2012, after which bassist Matt Flegel would start the new band Viet Cong, enlisting fellow Women band member Mike Wallace on drums, as well as Scott Monroe and Daniel Christensen. So how would this new band sound? We're here to find out. The album starts off with this repeating, pummeling sound, kicking off the opening track, Newspaper Spoons. It's this odd mix of catchy, arguably cheery vocals, the delivery anyways, not so much the lyrics, combined with such grit instrumentally. Those screeching guitars only add to the tension, while a synthesizer that gets progressively louder actually brings some comfort, again for an interesting dynamic. This takes us to the second track, Pointless Experience. But I mean, is any experience really pointless? Well, in the grand scheme of things, you could say our existence on this rock flying through space is, which is my takeaway from what the lyrics are getting at, but I'm glad they're vague enough that it's open for interpretation. And this is a modern post-punk banger. It's such a fun tune, though I would say the verses are much better than the chorus. Some thick repeating drums that honestly make me think of the song Robot Rock by Daft Punk start the next song, March of Progress. Only instead of turning into a song about androids jamming, it actually kind of smooths out despite this percussion. And as long as these drums aren't too distracting, the synth actually does make for some pretty comforting feeling. Roughly halfway through this 6+ minute track, this all cuts out as some exotic strings join in, alongside lyrics of healing. And closing the first side of the album is Bunker Buster. Two alternating guitars, one groovy and one sharp, make for a good open, and they hit even harder when the drums join in. This goes through a slight stylistic change during the final 2-minute jam the song ends on, alternating between being played calmly and more intensely. The lyrics on this make me think it's about the initial settlements of mankind, and so in the outro when Flegel asks, "Which side are you on, man?" it makes me picture all the wars and discrimination and racism people have put each other through throughout history just for being parts of different societies or lands with little to no other difference. It could very well just be that war is on my mind given the band's name. Well, I mean, I guess having a song called Bunker Buster kind of goes along with that as well, though. I'd say it's easily the best song thus far. Opening the second side of the record then is the single Continental Shelf, the first by Viet Cong. It's always interesting to hear the influences that go into a song, considering the beat to this was apparently inspired by Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, while the guitars were played with a more Sonic Youth sound in mind. The lyrics on this look to dwell on the anxiety of facing the world, or life as a whole for that matter, and they're very well delivered here. The chorus, on the other hand, is very descriptive of nature, either escaping in its genuine beauty or analyzing all the harm that mankind has done to it. Getting into the sixth song here, we have Silhouettes. This quicker paced one seems to deal with someone who's just totally disconnected from everyone and everything, really just here going through the motions. And it's a pretty strong tune. It sounds like a genuine 80s post-punk track with modern day production. And we end things off here with a track simply called Death. It ties in time spent out on the water to life as a whole and the general struggles and problems we face through it. It's far and above the longest one on here at a little over 11 minutes. And I would say that musically it doesn't really match the lyrical tone, as it's kind of upbeat. After about 3 minutes though, it ramps up into this harder portion, which the band proceeds to jam on for another 3 minutes. They continue on and break it down into this hard repeating bit, eventually changing sound entirely for a whole new chorus and verse. I'm kind of surprised this one never really stuck out to me before, since it's right up my alley. So I promise you I won't be forgetting it anytime soon. Viet Cong is available on cassette, CD, and vinyl, the latter of which is available in standard black, white, or clear variants. As a somewhat underground release, Viet Cong didn't make any headlines in terms of album sales, but reviews of it are pretty steady. It managed to make a couple best of 2015 lists, though just barely sneaking in. In fact, the album's more infamous than anything, as its title and furthermore the band's was subject of understandable widespread controversy. The Viet Cong were of course a militant group fighting for a communist Vietnam during the Vietnam War, so there were regularly protests at the band's shows calling for a name change or for them to break up, and there were even some venues that just abruptly canceled the show. As a result, they have changed their name to Preoccupations, as they are still currently known. I enjoyed the overall sound Viet Cong employed here, but the latter half of the record won me over more than the first. I really preferred that direction they went in, being generally darker and more depressing with it, and I mean, that 4-song stretch the end of the album with is a pretty solid one. I was also fond of the amount of alliteration in the lyrics here. In my own personal writings, I've always found rhyming to be overrated. I think it's just because a lot of the music I listen to isn't necessarily like pop or mainstream stuff, right? Where generally rhyming is utilized to help a song flow better, make it easier for fans to know like what word is coming next so they can stay in with it, right? And as a result, I find a lot of times people like will either use rhymes that have already been done so many times before that, or they'll try to force a rhyme in where it'll make the lyrics not even make sense. So in my own writings, I definitely prefer alliteration more, so I was glad to see it utilized here. With those couple points made, I'll be stamping Viet Cong with a B+ grading. There's good songs on here. It's generally a good album, especially with, again, that closing stretch. But there just wasn't enough that really blew me away. Thank you so much for checking out my review of Preoccupations, who were then Viet Cong's, what was then their self-titled album. You know what I'm getting at. This album, Viet Cong. I appreciate you sticking around, and until next time. But real quick, before we take off, ooh, what's that back there? Don't mind that. Nice little addition. What were your thoughts on this album? Let me know if I rated it too high. Let me know if I rated it too low. Appreciate you tuning in. Maybe stick around for another video. Nice little rhyme. I like that. Damn it. I was talking about how crap rhymes are earlier. Whatever. Get out of here. Well, I didn't mean to sound so mean. You can stick around if you want. Maybe catch another video. Maybe catch a couple of videos. We also got playlists, which would be either up there or over there. You'll see it.